The Warboss in Mega Armour has returned, and we've got far more pictures of the new Beast Snaggers. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're talking about the reveals from Warhammer Fest Day 5, and in this video we'll particularly focus on the new Orc reveals. Day 5 of Warhammer Fest was another 40k focused one. These are the main details of the reveals. There's going to be a new Orc Codex, a new Orc Battle Box containing a limited edition version of the Codex, Beast Snagger Boys, some Squighog Riders, and a couple of new characters, and also a return of the Warboss in Mega Armour. As well as the Orc stuff, we also got an interesting new revamped Acadian Shock Troop sprue, basically a whole new selection of extra heads and all the different special weapons that didn't come in the box. I'll hopefully be able to get a video out about them later in the day, and this one will focus on the Orc reveals. And finally they just ended with a little teaser implying that Grey Knights, Chaos Demons and Thousand Sons could be next on the horizon. Really quite a bountiful day of reveals, so let's jump right in and see what sort of violent greenskin goodness that we've got. So first up, it looks like the first release that we will be getting is this big new Beast Snagger starter set. To me it looks really quite similar to that Sisters of Battle launch box, the one that they did for the Codex around about 18 months ago when they did the big refresh of the range. This is a nice view of the miniatures that we get in the box, 20 Beast Snagger Boys, the new and revamped Zogrod Wart Snagger model, a set of Squighog Riders and a little Grot Bomb, and a new character in an Orc Knob in a Head Smasher Squig. A very decent amount of angry and menacing greenskins there. If they are making this the equivalent to the Sisters box, that one was around £125 or $210, so perhaps a bit on the expensive side, but as well as all those miniatures you do get the new Codex thrown in. From what it sounds like, this will be the first way that you can get your hands on the new Orc Codex, much in the same way that Sisters Battle box came out, the new Codex came with it, and then they had the Codex for sale separately after. Hopefully it won't be too far behind. I can imagine that being a bit annoying if your faction's Codex is out, but you can't get your hands on it if you don't want to pick up all these new models. In any case, I think that the artwork's really quite cool for it. A nice and menacing Squighog Rider with his rocket spear. Though I guess we don't actually know whether this will be the same artwork that's on the Codex. We know that this one's a limited edition cover, so we don't know whether it'll just be a similar artwork on a different sort of design, or whether the new Codex will have completely different artwork. In any case, it's quite nice to get confirmation that the Orc Codex is indeed on its way, bringing with it all the 9th things that we've come to expect, revamps of all the datasheets, new Crusade rules, and most likely a power boost for the Orcs if all the previous 9th codexes are anything to go by. If we go through the new units, this is that Orc Knob on the Smasher Squig. It looks like he's armed with a slugger, and then one of those Beast Snagger chainsaw chopper things that most of their foot troops seem to be armed with. I wonder if that'll give him a bit of AP on his attacks. And that Smasher Squig is apparently inspired by dinosaurs that have that thick bit of armour plating on their heads, all the better for ramming things. It would look like this guy's going to be a character choice for the Orcs, as opposed to just a squad leader for the Squighog Riders. He's mounted on a bigger base, and they're not saying that that's a Squighog at all, they're saying it's a Smasher Squig, something different. It'll be interesting to see what sort of leadership abilities he can give the Beast Snaggers. He might just literally be a beatstick fighty character, but I certainly wouldn't be too surprised if he made charging Squighog Riders just that little bit more dangerous nearby. The last thing to note is that he is really quite a big miniature in general. That Smasher Squig seems even bigger than the Squighogs from the standard Beast Snaggers, and seeing as all of the Beast Snaggers are quite a bit bigger than most normal Orcs, this guy looks like he's going to be getting on for Warboss proportions. Imagine that if and when we do see a Beast Snagger Warboss, which I suspect that we will see, he's going to be absolutely enormous. The other character from the kit is Zogrod Wart Snagger. He's actually an example of Games Workshop reviving a mothballed Orc character. He had rules several editions ago, and his backstory is that he's a unique runt herd who has the very quirky Orc belief that grots are actually worth something and should actually be bothered to be trained up and made stronger and better. Apparently, if you take him in game, he'll be able to augment one unit of Gretchen into Super Gretchen to represent his finely trained and stronger breeding runts. Apparently they hit harder and shoot straighter than standard Gretchen, though I'll be honest, if he is actually going to make them useful, he's got quite a way to go, being strength and toughness 2 at the moment. Apparently he's an outcast from the clans, which I think implies that he won't be clan locked, so hopefully you can take him in any Orc detachment, not just one given clan. And apparently he's got some quite fun backstory as well. They mentioned in the chat that there's some lore written about him, about firing a Big Mech through his own shock attack gun, when the Big Mech foolishly used some of his own Super Gretchen to be nothing more than living ammo. He's quite a fun model as well. I really like the big hair, a nod to the strange lore of hair squigs from days gone by, and it looks like he's armed with the most vicious looking grabber stick that you can possibly get. Next up we have a few new shots of the Beast Snagger boys. We saw one teased a week or so back, but it's good to get a few more shots of the unit. To be honest, there's quite a lot of them included in the box, a full 20 of these guys. It really is going to make it quite infantry heavy and a bit green tidy perhaps. The vast majority of them do seem to be armed with sluggers and those chainsaw choppers. Games Workshop did hint that they'll be strength 5 on their attacks. I wouldn't be too surprised if they were at least somewhat tougher to enemy shooting, whether that's multiple wounds or toughness 5. We can see there's at least one type of special weapon that they've got. This guy on the left seems to be armed with some sort of portable hand cannon, don't want to get in the way of that. And on the right we've got the unit leading Nob, seems to be very richly decorated in multiple bones from dead beasties, and his left hand seems to have been replaced by some sort of cyborg power claw rather than having a normal hand and weapon. I can't help but imagine that this guy's going to be pretty lethal in melee. Next we've got a full unit shot of the Squighog Riders, 3 in a unit all armed with their rocket powered spears. I do think they're really quite fun models myself. I might be looking to pick some up in the future. And they've also got a attached little Gretchen on a motorcycle squig. He seems to be the equivalent of a squig bomb for this unit, much like the tank busters get. It really is an incredibly mad little miniature that. Powered by rockets, tons of dynamite strapped to it, the squig's legs replaced by a motorcycle wheel, and of course the driving Gretchen or Snotling armed with little more than a rusty nail. I'm not sure that their little encounter is going to end very well for either the Gretchen or the squig. Finally, for new Orky miniatures, we've got a resculpt of the Warboss in Mega Armour, who won't be in that big box set, but will be available separately. I think out of the entire Ork range, this might have been one of the single most needed miniatures. In the fluff, Warbosses seem to wear Mega Armour more often than not. They have the most wealth and influence, so can afford to buy the best armour that teeth can buy. And Games Workshop pulled the option from the last codex as it didn't have any official model. You had to either use one of the knobs in Mega Armour or convert Ghazghkull Thraka before. In any case, it's really good to see him returning as an option, though he is a little bit different in aesthetic compared with before. Instead of the more traditional power claw and combi shooter, this guy seems to be armed with about the biggest chopper that you can possibly imagine that an orc might carry, unless you're counting things strapped to orc stompers. I've no doubt he'll certainly make a suitable impact in close combat. He also seems to have a grot mounted big shooter on his shoulder. Should be good for a little bit of extra accuracy, as I'm sure the grot will hit much more accurately with that gun than he ever could. Overall, I'm really glad to see him back. It's a pretty central option in the orc fluff, and one that just really felt weird not having in the book. Perhaps my only minor mixed feeling about the model is that it doesn't obviously look like it's going to have any sort of power claw or combi shooter sort of loadout, which I think would have been quite a nice option, just because again that fits with the fluff a bit better, and it's the loadout that I most imagine a Mega Armoured Warboss having in my head. I guess we don't absolutely know that there won't be more options with this, but Games Workshop do tend to go a bit more for the monopose character models these days, as opposed to giving lots and lots of different options. If it has the option then all well and good, but it's still a cool miniature either way. Finally, just from their discussion in the stream, we did get a few more details for the new Orc release. They gave us a little bit of clarity as to Beast Snaggers and their role in the new codex. We already knew that they weren't going to be clan locked, but they've also told us that they're going to act fairly similarly to Speed Freaks in the codex as it stands at the moment. A bunch of units will get the keyword, it will interact with certain units, auras and stratagems. You can have them in every single clan, and you don't have to take a certain amount of them or anything. And they'll have some sort of synergy with the snake bites, where previously the Speed Freaks had a little bit of extra movement with them. The Beast Snaggers will get some other minor extra buff if you fill them with snake bites, just as they're particularly at home in that clan. Just from that description, it does sound like Beast Snagger boys will be in direct competition with standard boys. It is certainly nice to have more options in the troop slot, though I can't help but think that with quite similar war gear and battlefield role, one of the choices is kind of likely to be better than the other, at least in terms of the points per what you get. Otherwise, they also mentioned that we've only seen 50% of the Orc kits so far. So far we've got the Squighog Riders, Beast Snagger boys, that Beast Snagger dog, the boss in Mega Armour, the Knob Rider on the Smasher Squig, and Zogrod Wart Snagger. That's 6 kits so far, so that implies another 6 if they've got their numbers right. One thing from one of the animations today was that they gave us a nice picture of these trucks, and one of the orcs in the last video did mention that there might be some new trucks on the way. so I'm wondering if we're going to see something like that. These ones don't look too amazingly dissimilar to the previous trucks, though they don't seem to be quite as close-topped as those ones. So maybe this might be an alternate model, perhaps a little bit similar to the classic Orc truck, the one that's a big flatbed open one. Otherwise, we do still have a fair few hints left to see from that cave art video, that enormous squig drawing a really big gun platform, and the beast snagger Warboss that we also saw with a squig perched on his shoulder. I think it's quite cool to think though that we'd probably have a fair few kits on top of that. I think quite a few people might be crossing their fingers for an updated Defcopter, or maybe an update to the resin kits such as the Tank Busters or the Commandos. So plenty of good news for the Orcs indeed. Let me know what you think of all the reveals down in the comments below. I'll certainly look forward to having a read through. If I get a chance, I'll hopefully be back later in the day to talk about that Cadian kit, so feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see more, or just check back later. Finally, if you are enjoying all the content on the channel, I would just like to mention that I do have a Patreon page, which is what allows me to make quite this much content quite this much of the time. If you are enjoying the videos a fair bit, then any support keeping them coming is enormously appreciated. You can find the link down in the video description. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, such as seeing certain new videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description below. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.